Hi guys, my name is Timothy. This is going to be my informative speech about foster care. I have my audience here listening. They look so thrilled. So like I said, my speech is about foster care and how a child comes in contact. In order for a child to be put into the foster care system, it starts off with Child Protective Services. You'll hear me call that CPS several times during the speech. Child Protective Services is the people who do all the investigating. In 2014, they received 66,292 calls regarding abuse and neglect allegations. Out of those, 12,742 of those children were placed into foster care. Most of the children were able to receive services in the home or other alternatives, maybe even the allegations being founded unfounded, to where the Child Protective Services was no longer needed. Foster care is basically just a home away from home, is how I experienced it. In foster care, you're placed with families who are trained to deal with different behaviors, different symptoms, and they do receive a board payment, but for what I put my foster parents through, it was not enough. CPS, like I said, is Child Protective Services. They do all the cases in the beginning. They either go down an investigative track or an assessment track. Every call, every case that gets reported is looked into. Except some are unfounded, which is always a good thing. It just means somebody got mad at someone. Once a child goes into foster care, they're, like I said, placed with a nurturing family that is required to meet their basic needs of survival. And they start what's called a child and family team meeting, in which all the foster parents, the birth parents, or anybody in the birth family, there is what's called a Department of Children's Services worker, and also usually a psychologist, and they work as a team to determine what the child needs to do, what the parents need to do in order to reunite them. If a child does not get reunited with the parents, they obviously usually get adopted, or in some instances, children do age out of foster care. Once a child's placed in, they're placed in one of two categories. There is dependent neglect, which is where a child was not taken care of properly by their family. There's also juvenile justice, where they decide they want to be hoodlums, get in trouble with the justice system, and the court orders them into foster care or rehab. Most children in custody are in anywhere from 6 months to a year. They try to say they want to be at 6 months. Usually never happens. I personally was in for 6.5 years, so very well past the 6-month mark. And according to the Tennessee Commission of Children and Youth, 35% of the youth that become homeless were in foster care at one point or another in their life. The National Youth Transition Database also says that of the teenagers, 12% graduate high school, 3% go on to college, and only 0.5% graduate any form of vocational or college program. Also, the Tennessee Commission of Children and Youth also says that 93% of children placed in foster care, either the child or the parent, had some form of mental illness. That could range anywhere from bipolar disorder all the way up to schizophrenic, which happens a lot. 67% of those parents did have prior incarcerations or run-ins with the justice system, and 44% of allegations that go through the Child Protective Services hotline are of abuse, with 31% of those being physical abuse, 25% being sexual abuse, and 12% being physical and sexual abuse allegations. Once a child's in foster care, the parents, if they do not work their program, they go through what's called termination of parental rights, in which the foster parents do have the option to adopt the child if they would like. It takes a very long time for the parents' rights to be terminated. They try to exhaust all resources. In the state of Tennessee, it's believed that if the child can be with the birth family, that is what's best for them, which is definitely a good thing. And so if there's any questions anybody has, just post them in the comments and I'll be more than happy to answer them or go any further that you might need. You got to pan the audio.